What's up YouTube, this is Tubedigga. In this video I'm going to show you how you can use the XYFX beat repeat as an experimental multi-track looper. Before I get into this video, I just want to thank all my current subscribers, anyone that's liked and shared my videos, anyone that follows or supports me on social media, and of course anyone that's been kind enough and donated to this channel. If you'd like to do that yourselves, there's a PayPal link in the description and I'll be forever grateful for your help. If you'd like private tuition with myself, please contact me at tubedigga@gmail.com for more details. So this technique utilises the XYFX beat repeat and the Q-Link knobs. They're the main things that we'll be using for this tutorial. So in my particular case, and this is completely open for modification, this is just how I've got mine set up. You can set yours up in a slightly different way or in a completely different way. But for my project, I've got 4 tracks and there's 4 programs, and each of those programs on those tracks has a number of different samples mapped to the first 16 pads. You can map more pads if you want, have more tracks, have less tracks, just have one track. It's completely up to you. But it's mostly how it works with the Q-Links and how they control the XYFX. Let's first of all just show you a quick demonstration of what you can achieve. So it's completely random and left to chance. There's a few things you can do to tame this to make it a little bit less unwieldy and more predictable. But this is the first method, completely on the fly playback of the pads, and then I'm going to move this Q-Link and that's going to enable the XYFX beat repeat for this particular program. I'm glad that didn't capture everything and didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, because it shows you that there's a buffer running in the background that will only capture a certain amount of the audio that's played through it via the pads. Because I've got no way of telling where that clock is that's possibly running in the background, I'm making a technical assumption here, but it's something to do with where you enable this. So I'm going to try and enable this again just before the sequence ends, so it resets itself and hopefully we can get a loop that's dead on. There you go, there's our loop. I can switch off the sequencer and that will just play on its own. So the other method we can use to get rhythmic stuff which is actually on the grid on time with our sequence is to use note repeat. So if we double tap that and latch note repeat, we can set a particular time division. I'm going to choose 1/8 triplets just because it's slightly more interesting than just straight 1/8. So I'm going to play the sequence back and record another performance in. So as you can hear, that captured a really nice loop. It was all on time and it worked well with the sequence there. So let's talk about how the Q-Links are set up. If I press and hold Shift and press Project, that takes me to my Q-Link edit. So these first 4 knobs here pertain to the parameters for program 1 on track 1. So we've got the enable for the XYFX. That's essentially pressing the screen, but it's also simultaneously latching it, which I think is really handy. If we were to use the XYFX interface, we'd have to make sure latch is engaged and then we can just use our different time divisions. But the other problem with using the interface is that there's no separation between the filter and the time division for the beat repeat. There is if you use the Q-Links. So once again, I've got the X-axis, which is the beat repeat mapped to this Q-Link, and the Y-axis mapped on this Q-Link. I've also got the master semi-tune for the entire program mapped to my 4th Q-Link, which, as you saw, I captured. So it will capture any parameter changes that you make with this Q-Link, depending on what you've got it assigned to. So I've got the same parameters for all 4 programs. So this is program 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we've got the enable, I've got the x-axis, which is the time division, the y-axis, which is the filter, and the master semi-tune. So I can capture one loop, move up to the next track, capture another loop, so on and so forth, and I've got all this control at my fingertips, different time divisions for all these different loops. And if you're using the note repeat method, you can obviously change the time divisions per track. So let's start again. Let's try another capture on this first track. I'm going to use the metronome, so my first track is at least the most coherent, so we've got something to work with the other tracks or programs. So that's good enough for me. Now, if you've got note repeat engaged, you'll notice that now we don't get access to the track buttons here unless we disengage it. So just remember to press on the track parameter here and use the data wheel, and now we can change tracks. So I'm going to change to quarter note triplets for this track. Track 2, let's do track 3. That's not too audible, that one. Let's move up to track 4. A bit messy, a bit random, a bit noisy, a bit obnoxious, but obviously doing this in the comfort of your own home, sampling it back into the MPC, you can generate a ton of content that you can then chop back into and use in your projects. Of course, if you're in the sampler and you leave it to switch tracks, your recording will stop. And there's no way once in the sampler, if you don't already know this, if you leave the sampler, it will stop recording. But also there's no way to switch tracks here unless you're sending a program change from a MIDI device. It's really easy to do. If we go to menu, go to preferences, make sure in general, and you can see here it says program change. If you set that to track and send a program change, that's a dedicated control message from a MIDI controller. It will be a number from 0 to 127. If it's 0, that will select track 1. So if you press the button on the MIDI controller, that will jump to track 1. If you press program change 1, it will jump to track 2, so on and so forth. So that's one way that you could record all this into the sampler, stay in the sampler, have all your cue links, do your performance, record it back into the MPC and change tracks in the background. But you would have to use program change. Please do experiment with this yourselves, try and map some different parameters maybe, but I thought this was pretty good in terms of you've got 4 individual loopers and 4 parameters for each of those loopers. But it's a great way to generate your own interesting and unique content, no matter how you've got this set up. So any questions or comments, please put them down below. Of course, if you want private tuition, email me at tubedigga@gmail.com for more details, and I will see you on the next one. This is Tubedigga, and I'm out.